Please!
Okay.
You're in my head. Get out of my head, Charles.
Oh no. Go.
Come on. Need to play stuff. Go.
What? Go.
Oh, you are also bricked. Excellent. Go.
Oh my. I need to find nature. Focus.
Oh, not so bad. Oh, I found nature. Amazing. But I need all of these. What? Whatever. Treasure painted trap. Sacrilege, I know. Go.
That's crazy. Hmm. This is bad. Oh, that too. Go.
Whoa, 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 whoa. No break. Draw. What? What are you holding on to, Davey? Go.
Go.
Oh crap. You're definitely gonna hit a creature soon. Oh, very good. 4. Die.
No.
Go.
Why is he so weak?
It was in the top 10 video,
No, play this. Judge.
Dave. Yeah, that needs to go.
I have break. Go.
You can break with alcohol, cause 5, 6. Ooh. Go.
Go.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Right. Should probably keep this. 7. Die.
No.
Go.
Go.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This back. Should have charged. Okay, go.
Beast Funk.
Oh crap. Oh, Beast Funk. Okay.
Hmm. Break. Go.
Okay. You're stalling. 7. Eight. Actually, no. I feel like I want this. 8. 3, 2, 3. Okay. 2. I'll get back my trusty soul swap. Actually, no. I'll get back Terrapin. Yeah. So I'll have to get this back. And then 3. Pyro.
Oh, he's stronger.
Yeah. I'll break. Break. Double.
What?
Break. Break.
Oh no.
Break. Okay, go.
I think it might be over.
You need Mana Nexus.
Yeah. It's over.
Oh. This will be better. Okay.
What's that?
Aww.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And sand is also better. Go.
Pig. Go.
Oh. Dare challenge me, pig. Go. But that's actually pretty good because this means I can't summon anything.
Awesome. Oh, I needed that. Oh, it's not worth. You're not gonna play anything anyways.
I can play bronze arm.
You die just so you don't play bronze arm for the turn. Go.
Bronze darkness. There, go.
I can't play that. Oh no. Judge this. You know? Oops.
Draw. I think Terra. You can help me here. Probably Baz. Oh.
That doesn't count as putting a creature in.
Yeah, it does.
Okay. Break. Break. Go.
Oh man, knock the Stewie. Draw. Actually, it's not the worst thing. Die. It's also. Ooh, for Baz? No, let's do this because you have no cards. Go.
Oh no. What? Go.
Oh. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Die. Double. Go. You put in Torcon?
I didn't have anything. What? I can't do anything.
Oh, I guess that deck hates you. Okay. I guess 8. Die. Double. Oh. Go.
This tick never works for me. I don't know why.
It's because you don't believe in it. Or maybe I need to revise it. Alright, so that was a pretty good showing from the new Phal Control deck. And if you're wondering what this section of the video is, I thought that as a spoiler block, it might be nice for me to provide some sort of commentary, reactions to what just transpired. I thought that would be a much more interesting way to spoiler block the videos. And I'm not going to provide commentary for each and every video, as I'm sure you guys have picked up, just the ones with total duration that is a little bit on the short side. We saw that in both games, Phal was able to win by using its finishers, which I think is great for the deck, but I also have to acknowledge that it's something that doesn't always happen in every matchup. With these slow boss finishers, you obviously hope to be able to use them to close out games, but well, because you don't play that many copies and because opponents have a way to disrupt that strategy a lot of the time, it doesn't always turn out that way. So I do have to acknowledge that Phal was a bit fortunate in those games. I also think that the way in which Beast Folk Mafia lost was very symptomatic of the deck's main problems. It's quite funny because during Season 1, when we came up with the first draft of the list, and I think that is the list that we are still using today, we thought that the deck was super broken. We were just like, you get Bronze Arm on 3, and then you either get Mistrius or Petrova on 4, and it's so hard to stop. But then, of course, with the air quotes power creep in our subsequent seasons, or I guess I should really just call it improvements in deck building, the deck really did start to fall off. So Damien, being the clairvoyant that he is, was actually never a big fan of this deck, even back in Season 1 when Andrew and I thought it was the hot stuff. So yeah, let's talk about some of the problems. Now problem 1 I would say is consistency issues. This is something that, in fairness, Damien did bring up quite a lot. He was like, you know,
This deck does not run enough water mana to reliably play Emerald on turn 2, and then I think in some of the games, even though Nature is the most represented civ in the deck, he wasn't even able to get off a turn 2 Quixotic, so I think those were extremely unfortunate. What I'm trying to say here is that the civ composition of the deck is not particularly optimized, and we really need to think carefully about what our 2-drop lineup is going to be. You know, maybe the 4 pigs, 3 to 4 emeralds, I think, and then 2 Torcons aren't really going to cut it. Maybe it's worth reconfiguring what our early attackers should really be. The other main problem, I would say, is the lack of a clear game plan. I don't think it's good for the decision to attack to depend on the board state. So what do I mean by this, if I'm going to put all of my thoughts together? Do we want to only start attacking when Petrova is out? Do we only want to start attacking when Mistreus is out? Because then if we have Mistreus, we can just draw creature after creature after creature. You draw cards that kind of replace themselves, and then you have a full board, and then that's when you attack? I don't know, right? It's not very obvious. Are you waiting for a Petrova or Mistreus? So I think in that regard, the deck is a little bit confused. And I think people have mentioned this in the past, which I generally agree with. Mistreus is not the most aggressive card in the world, right? Like if you're running an aggressive deck, you want extra draw, Mistreus is not necessarily the best vehicle for that. So why, Jason? Why are you guys playing Mistreus in the first place? You yourself have said it is not the best aggro card. The reason for that is because, if you remember, this is a deck that was inspired by something from Duel Masters plays. Going all the way back to sets 1 and even set 2, what we have here is actually something that very closely resembles a viable competitive deck from that era. In saying that, I should also acknowledge that the power level in the TCG is probably, though comparable, a little bit higher than the early DMP metas. Of course, you have cards which are exceptions to that rule. For example, I think Titan Giant and Astral Reef and even Valborg are a lot stronger than a lot of the cards in the TCG card pool, but by and large, TCG straddles 12 sets, and so the power level is a bit higher. And of course, you have like Soul Swap and Cranium Clamp and things like that. So going back to the main meat of the discussion, what can we reasonably do? We did talk a little bit about this in the TCG Revisited video, and to be honest, I think this is something that I'm going to continue to ponder until we can successfully fix, or at least bring this list up to speed. Mistreus' presence is something that I will continue to question. Maybe Mistreus is good, but the deck does need some other kind of draw card with burst potential. Lucky Ball is an obvious candidate. It's water and it jives with an aggressive strategy, but I also remember Damien saying that he didn't want this deck to just turn into another one of the aggro Lucky Ball decks, like with Hydrus, like with Mono Water. So that's an idea that's kind of been put on ice for now. I also have to admit that I do like the idea of having a Mistreus focused aggressive deck. Like you just stick a Mistreus and then you play a bunch of creatures, and then when you have a full board you can swing. That strategy is obviously prone to board wipes. I think Apocalypse Vice destroys that strategy, and if you don't have any sort of protection on Mistreus, whether in the form of Petrova or Paloelesis, then the strategy does become inherently fragile. And so the more I think about it, the less I like Mistreus as the primary engine of the deck. But because these card games to me are both art and science, I will do my best to try to keep the ideas I like competitive. Perhaps this is an exercise in futility, but we shall see. I also remember that there was a point where the IDC community had some respect for a light water nature aggro deck. But that deck ran Crazed Valkyrie and it wasn't Beast Folk focused. And, I have nothing against that concept, but because another reason for us having this deck is because it's nostalgic, I did want to keep the Beast Folk focus on it. Mono Nature Beast Folk was Andrew's deck of choice in high school, and I have just grown extremely fond of Beast Folk. So, well, if we could have a deck that revolved around them, that would be great. Low-key, I just really love the name Beast Folk Mafia. For some other options, if we really are going to retain the Beast Folk focus, perhaps it is worth experimenting with a higher Bark Whip count. We always talk about how good Spin Slicer is on turn 2, and, well, a Bark Whip on 3 is not that far behind, I guess. I also figure that if you are playing either Mysterious or Lucky Ball, you are able to convert that into card advantage. I think the downside of early drop evolutions is that they are just big bodies, but you don't really gain card advantage from them per se, because you're not gaining an extra creature on the board, right? You are replacing one of your current creatures. So in that regard, it's actually negative card advantage. So if you're able to break shields early, advance your win condition, and then draw cards with Lucky Ball later, then that's actually a pretty good trade-off. And if you have Mysterious as your main engine, then suddenly even the evolution is not losing you card advantage anymore. Because yeah, you evolve Bark Whip, but then at least it replaces itself, because Mysterious lets you draw a card. And it only costs 2 mana, so it's pretty easy to spam, pretty easy to deploy as a speed attacker. Earlier in the video, I also talked about reconfiguring the 2-drop lineup, and I think maybe running more 2-drop Beast Folks could be the way to go. I was thinking, of course, we gotta run the 4 Quixotic, but what if we add some more Torkons? You know, Torkon is a shield trigger, so you boost the count of 2 Torkons to 4. And that way, we have 8 2-drop Beast Folk attackers. And then that's already on top of the 3 or 4 Emeralds that we're playing. And then I realized Torkon is actually not that good. So what if, instead of playing Torkon, what if we play Crowwinger instead? Because as an aggro deck, if you are running creatures that don't net you any sort of card advantage, I think you want them to at least be able to stick. So this is the kind of logic that supports Gaunta, Snip Striker, Bullraiser, things like that. You know, they are just vanillas, but they are difficult to remove vanillas, and that is how they earn their keep. Now Torkon, by and large, even though he has Shield Trigger, he's just a vanilla, but if you have something like Crowwinger, that's probably the closest thing that this deck has to a Snip Striker Bullraiser, so maybe that's worth testing. It's obviously not going to work in every matchup, but I think the matchups that do play removal spells will be very likely to have Darkness and or Water. Of course, the big question that I keep revisiting is, should this deck play Soul Swap? There aren't actually that many Soul Swap targets, in fairness. Mysterious is a bit of an iffy Soul Swap target if you ask me, and Petrov is obviously the big one. But one of the things that I like about this deck is that the concept is not inherently reliant on Soul Swap. Like, we all know how versatile and how broken Soul Swap is, but if you think about it, if you're just playing a creature mass deck, Soul Swap is not necessarily crucial for that strategy to work. It's another one of the reasons why I like the Pinsir Scarab aggro deck so much. I guess Soul Swap doesn't really hurt the deck, but the deck really doesn't need it, and I feel like that same logic can apply here. Obviously, that will also depend on how much we change the creature lineup. For example, if we put in Lucky Ball, suddenly Soul Swap does become a lot more compelling. Also, if we play Sky Sword, Soul Swap does become a lot more compelling. And Sky Sword is pretty much a shoo-in at this point. We are going to replace Mana Nexus with 2 copies of Sky Sword. And hey, at least Sky Sword is consistent with the Beast Folk Mafia theme. If we do play Lucky Ball, this deck still does have a unique selling point, in my opinion, compared to the other Lucky Ball decks that we have, which is it has shield manipulation. And of course it has Petrova, so you are foregoing some of that speed for power. But yeah, those are my ramblings. Let me know what fixes you think we can make to Beast Folk Mafia to make it more competitive, or let us know if you think the concept that we envision is beyond saving. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video, and we'll catch you in the next one.